Hey everybody, this is Arly from Arly at Home, and we're here in my urban garden tonight in South Florida making dinner tonight. It's a beautiful night, the weather's amazing. It's actually around 50, 60 degrees, which is very rare for our area. So we're gonna take advantage and we're gonna make sweater weather food. We're making chili tonight. And one of the things that I like to do with chili, switch up the meats, but tonight we're gonna keep it pretty contemporary and traditional, and we're gonna use a beautiful, amazing, fantastic grass-fed beef that we've been using regularly for some time now, and I haven't swayed from this brand. I really love it. It is hormone-free, raised organically, 90-10 fat or lean to fat on the meat, and it is free roaming beef. I think it's fantastic. I really enjoy it, and we're gonna add to that as well some onions, some bell pepper, and some garlic. Keeping it simple, nothing extraordinary, nothing out of the ordinary. We'll get into the spices as I'm working it out, but right now, let's get the fire rolling. So you're gonna heat your pan to a medium heat. We're cooking outside today because you gotta take advantage of this weather. In South Florida, it gets so hot all the time that when it's cool out, you take advantage and you cook outside. I'm adding a little bit of olive oil to the pan just to get the meat going and browning. We're gonna cut open this package and just add our meat straight in. That's already heating up. Now, you're gonna wanna brown your beef all the way through before adding anything else to it. I use a regular wire whisk, no fancy equipment needed. Some people like to use like those meat mashers in order to get things going, but I find that there's no need. The wire whisk does the job just fine. It breaks it up perfectly fine, and it's very easy to clean in the long run. If you have a dishwasher, you can just pop it into your dishwasher. If not, you just flatten it a little bit and you can just wash it easily. So we're gonna let that brown a little bit. Once you get your meat broken up and into smaller pieces, you can switch to a slotted spoon to just kind of move it around, or to a solid metal spoon to just kind of keep it going around. Now we're gonna let that brown for a little bit. Alright, once your meat has browned, if you're using a higher fat content beef, like an 80-20 or an 85-15, at this point, you want to remove it from the heat and you want to drain it and remove most of the fat from your pan, because it would be an excessive amount of fat. You don't want like that goopy amount of thick layer of fat over the top of your chili. But since I'm using a leaner browned beef, I can skip that step and I can use the actual beef tallow itself as the fat in the dish. Right now we're gonna add our onions and our bell pepper. I'm not adding the garlic right away. That's something you want to add a little bit later because you don't want it to burn. If it burns, it gets a bitter taste to it. Nobody likes bitter garlic. You want it to be sweet and robust. So I'm adding the onions and the peppers, and I'm gonna sweat those out in the pan with the beef and the fat while I add the seasonings to it, so that everybody can work together and make happy goodness. So our seasonings, we're gonna start with paprika. So you're gonna add about a tablespoon of paprika. Next we're adding cumin. Cumin is earthy, it's deep, it's smoky, it's amazing. It gives a great flavor to everything Southwestern. It's a very traditional Tex-Mex season. We're gonna add granulated garlic. Now I know it might be overkill on the garlic for some people, but it's not, I promise. This adds a different type of garlic flavor. Tablespoon of granulated garlic. There's a difference between the fresh and the powder, I promise. Next is chili powder. I use a dark chili powder versus the lighter chili powders, and I do not use a smoked chili powder. The dark chili powder gives a much deeper, stronger color. That's my sidekick, Rex. So we added 2 tablespoons of dark chili powder. And we're gonna add a tablespoon of onion powder. And I measure that with the cap, but you must add it into the spoon and place it in. We're gonna stir that in. And when you do that, without adding any liquids, and we just stir that in with the fats itself, believe it or not, what it does is just awaken the spices that are dried. It gives them a much stronger, more vibrant flavor than if you were to just add them to the liquid and simmer it. My secret ingredient, ground cinnamon. Now you're not gonna add a lot of this, just the tiniest little bit, just a couple dashes like that. And what that does is brighten it up. It gives it that warm, it's fall flavor that everyone's so used to, especially in your nose. Because when you smell things, you already know if you like the way it tastes or if you don't. If something smells amazing, you're gonna instantly want to eat it. We're adding some salt, a couple cracks of Himalayan pink salt, and a few cracks of black pepper. I'm gonna reduce the heat to low. I don't want any of this amazing seasoning, any of these spices to burn. I just want them to wake up in the fat. While that happens, I'm gonna add a little bit of tomato paste, about another tablespoon of it. Let's add 2. And we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And maybe I said it wrong. I haven't met a single person that says it properly. Once you've added that in, stir it in to combine. You want the tomato paste to kind of saute with the seasonings and with all of the meat and the vegetables. You want that tomato paste to wake up. If you leave it just kind of like bland and sitting around, well, that's kind of the flavor you're gonna get, is bland and sitting around. So we're trying to avoid that. Now, one of the secret ingredients, I don't think you guys can see it, but one of the secret ingredients that I'm going to add to this once it's done caramelizing is 8 ounces of beer. You can use any kind of beer that you like. Chili is forgiving. It's something that you're making with the ingredients you have at home. I have a lager on tap in my kegerator, tabletop kegerator. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill this up with 8 ounces of light lager. No big deal. The alcohol mostly cooks out, and if you want to leave this out, you're absolutely welcome to do so. No one is saying it's a must. So we're going to add this in a couple of minutes. Once this has browned really well and the flavors have developed well, the onions and the peppers have swelled down and they're breaking down and they're translucent in color and just beautiful and inviting, and you can smell the spices. What you're looking for as well is that there's a little bit of brown bits at the bottom of the pan. Those little brown bits are what give food a flavor. Brown food tastes good. So at this point, take your beer. Cheers. We're gonna add that in. Stir that around. That beer, adding it in, is going to help pick up all the little crispy bits that are stuck to the bottom of the pan from sauteing the meat and the vegetables and the seasonings. Oh, smells amazing. When that's done, at this point, you want to add your garlic. That garlic at this point is not, right now, when you add it in, this garlic is not gonna, it's not gonna burn. There's plenty of liquid in there to keep it bright and from browning and from getting too dark and getting bitter. It's a good time to add your garlic in. It's just gonna melt into the liquids in the pan. Secret ingredient time. Dark brown sugar. You're gonna add 2 tablespoons of dark brown sugar. And we're gonna stir that in. Dark brown sugar, now the reason I add this in, sugar balances out anything savory. We're adding tomato paste, Worcestershire sauce, things that are acidic in flavor. And it's like making a tomato sauce. For those of you that don't know, like a regular marinara pasta sauce has sugar in it. You have to balance out the acid from the tomatoes. So you're doing the same thing here. Since you're adding peppers, onions, tomatoes, things that are acidic, a little bit of sugar goes a long way. And I use dark brown sugar because it has molasses in it. Molasses adds that deep, rich, home-cooked, long-cooked flavor to your chili. And we're gonna let that simmer for just a second, just like that, to kind of concentrate the flavors again. And we're gonna add water to cover, reduce the heat down to low to simmer, and we're gonna cover it and let it cook for a little while. So we are adding some Cholula hot sauce. Not an excessive amount, just a few dashes will get it done. It just gives a kind of bite to the food without being overly spicy. We're gonna stir that in, and then now I'm adding 6 cups of water to the pot. Stir the water in to incorporate completely. And we're gonna wait a few seconds for this to come up to a bubble again. And once it does, you're going to knock the heat down to a low and cover it and let it simmer on low for about 45 minutes until the water has reduced by about half and you have a nice thick soup. Okay, so now that it has come to a bubble and it's got a good rolling boil to it, you're gonna stir it around, make sure nothing has been sticking to the bottom. You're gonna be doing that randomly. You're gonna take your cover it with the lid, reduce the heat to low, and let it simmer for 45 minutes. Stirring occasionally, of course. You don't want anything to stick to the bottom. You just want to make sure that this is bubbling away good. I'd say every 10 minutes come by around. This is on low anyways. And just stir it, make sure nothing is sticking, and let it roll. Alright guys, every few minutes, don't forget to go ahead and stir and check on your chili, make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. Cover it back up, let it keep going. Okay guys, now we're gonna thicken it up a little bit. It has been simmering for about 40 minutes. The liquid has reduced by about half, but unless we add some thickener to it at this point, it's still going to be a little bit loose. And I like my chili a little thick. So I'm going to take about a tablespoon or 2 of cornstarch, and I'm going to add liquid to it. I'm using the beer that I used earlier. Just about 2 tablespoons of liquid, just enough to dissolve the cornstarch into it. And that's what we call a slurry. And that's a very classic thickener in traditional French cooking. We're going to loosen this up, and it'll feel really loose. Once you've dissolved all that cornstarch in the liquid, it'll feel really loose. And you just add it in, and you stir it in and keep it bubbling for another about 15 minutes. And it should thicken up on low heat. Right, perfect to that consistency that you like. Alright everybody, it has thickened up beautifully, and we are going to serve this for dinner tonight. It is beautiful, nice and thick, and we are going to be serving this with not my husband's cornbread, which I'm going to make a video for that coming up. I hope everybody enjoyed following along with me tonight, and I hope you enjoy making this chili. Good night.